And our final presenter is Collin Gillespie. He's a doctoral student in the Natural Resource Management and Watershed Management and Ecohydrology program. Collin, you have the floor.
My name is Collin Gillespie, and today I want to talk a little about my research on the water use patterns of riparian mesquite trees. First, I'm going to talk a little about mesquite more broadly and some context before getting into some of the specifics of my project. Now, mesquite are incredibly flexible, adaptable, and hardy species. Here's a classic lowland watershed like you see in areas around Tucson. And mesquite can be found pretty much everywhere here, including in the upland scrub, lining the washes, and down in the river terrace just out from the cottonwoods and the willows. Like the highlighted area in this image, areas bordering a water body like the stream are referred to as riparian. And it's the mesquite in these areas that are of principal interest to our project. Mesquite can be vilified and are sometimes blamed for declines in stream flow seen in many waterways throughout the Southwest. So land managers sometimes turn to expensive and destructive mesquite removal projects in attempts to mitigate that decline. Yes, maybe it's true that mesquite are not as huggable as some trees, but it's not clearly established that their removal would have that desired effect. And so it's in this context that we're studying the water use patterns of riparian mesquite along the lower San Pedro River. We're trying to determine the source water used by different stands of mesquite, and that would be able to let us see if the trees are using water that might otherwise contribute to stream flow. We're also asking, does water use patterns vary between mature stands and younger thickets? Does it vary between different times of the year? And how does this impact tree water stress? Here you can see some images from some of our test plots. We're studying a mature forest, a high-density young thicket, a low-density young thicket, as well as an upland plot that declined to have its photo taken, so it's not pictured here. We collect samples from each of our plots of both the trees and the shallow soils, and then we extract the water from those samples. Then we analyze that water to determine its isotopic signature so that we can see which water sources the trees are using and when. And what we're seeing is that the different stands of mesquite have very similar patterns in that they mostly use water from the upper couple layers of soil, depending on the available moisture. Through the spring and into the early summer, they begin to draw water from deeper down as those shallower soil layers dry out. Then once those sweet monsoon rains come, they shift back to using those shallow soil layers, at least until the winter, when they begin to drop their leaves and go dormant until the following spring. So thinking back to stream flow, if the mesquite are only relying on higher levels of water and not the deeper, then it's likely their impact on stream flow would be negligible, if any at all, at least during during wetter years, like during my study period. If any of you are interested in this project and or want to join me for some field work, especially this summer when it gets nice and toasty, feel free to reach out. A big thanks to Jahu, Gita Bodner, the Nature Conservancy, and all of you for your attention.